Harry was the one that, you would say that, and always practicing, always wanted to practice, always be watching himself and Berber and Defoe and people like that, doing shooting. So you certainly knew that he wanted to become a football player.
So hello and welcome to the latest instalment of our UCFB LMI Insights series, where we speak to some of the most influential names in the football industry. Today, I'll be speaking with one of the Premier League's greatest ever goal scorers. He's also the record goal scorer for his country, has played in a World Cup, and was once name-checked by President Obama, who claimed to be his cousin. I'm delighted to welcome Robbie Keane. Robbie, how are you?
Very well. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Good. Thank you again for joining us today. We really appreciate it.
Pleasure, no problem.
I want to start at the start of your career. You broke on the scene quite dramatically, scoring twice for Wolves in your debut, aged just 17. What are your memories of that day, before the game and then during it?
Well, the memories were, I know that a few days before, Mark McGee, the manager at the time, told me that I was going to be playing. Had a really good pre-season. With them, went to Scotland and scored a few goals. I only got pulled down really because a couple of people got injured and the manager pulled us down because the pitches were right beside each other. So he put me down. And once I started training with the team and didn't play reserve games, nothing, went straight to the youth team, to the first team training, and then I was fairly comfortable in that situation. And I made a few things happen in the training session. And, kind of made a fool of a couple of the senior players, if you like, and I think the manager quite liked that. And then, I went to pre-season, and then I got to, I played in a couple of games, scored a few goals, and then obviously the first game of the season against Norwich City, a couple of days before he told me I was playing, so he said they called my mother and father and told them to fly over. So they flew over, I think, to Birmingham and drove all the way down to Norwich, which is definitely a long journey. So they flew over, and then played against Norwich, and then people say, were you nervous and stuff like that? I never really got nervous playing games. It's always been more excitement and kind of them butterflies where you can't wait for the game. So that I've always been like that, and even at that game it was the same. So I never felt out of my depth. I always felt like I belonged there, and thankfully for me, on that day I scored 2 goals and we won 2-0.
You say you didn't feel nervous throughout your career, but at that time and that age, did you feel pressure to perform, or was it kind of a case that you were that young that you could go out and just perform your natural game? No,
I didn't feel pressure because I kind of I wanted to get into the Wolves team as quickly as possible, and I made that fairly clear to myself and my family, because I could have signed for Liverpool, I could have signed for a few other clubs, and Liverpool was the team I supported as a kid. And my mother said, we don't just sign for them because you support them. Make sure it's the team that's right for you. So I knew Wolves was right for me. I knew I have more of an opportunity to play straight away for Wolves, for example, than I would have, for Liverpool. So it kind of worked out exactly how I kind of wanted it. So, me going in at 17, did I expect to be in just turning 17? Probably not. I mean, just never played a reserve game and went straight into the first team. It's definitely, August it was the game, and I was just turned 17 in July. So maybe not as quickly as that, but I definitely in my own head I thought, I want to play for this team as soon as possible. And as soon as I trained with them and played a few games with them, I knew that I'm well capable of getting involved here and playing on a regular basis.
And obviously, staying at that age as well, you were part of the Ireland team that won the Under-18 European Championship, I think it was. Then you made your full debut at age just 18. We'll come on to your Ireland career later on. But at that time, how much did that mean to you? And could you really take it on board, what you was achieving?
Yeah, obviously the Under-18s was a huge achievement for, certainly for a little small country like ourselves, and the teams that were involved there. England was there, Croatia was there, and Germany, we beat Germany in the final on penalties. So we certainly didn't expect to win it. But when we were there, the players that we had, players that played in the Premier League, England, I would say probably had the best squad. The players that they had was incredible. Woodgates and Alan Smith and Matty Upson and people like that. There was so many top players that played in the Premier League for many years. We had maybe three, myself, Richie Dunn, Stephen McPhail was probably the ones that stand out more. But we had a really good team spirit. That's what kept us going. To win that was huge, certainly for the country, and then obviously to go on then to make my debut I think it's every kid's ambition to play for your country. Growing up in the streets of Dublin, and all you ever want to do is put that green jersey on, and as soon as you put that on, it's definitely the most proudest moment I would say in my footballing career. And then thankfully I went on to continue to play for Ireland for a long time.
And obviously from Wolves you went to Coventry, who were in the Premier League at the time. It was a record fee for record British fee for a teenager. So you're now in the Premier League, 19 years old. What's going on in your head? Obviously you're ready for that move, but how did you just ready yourself to play in the Premier League?
The games I did when I played for Wolves, really, when I first started off. I knew we played a few games, I think, in the FA Cup and stuff like that against Wimbledon and Arsenal and stuff like that. So I got a little taste of it at the time. But I knew I was ready. I knew I was ready to. I always obviously wanted to play in the Premier League. I tried to get there with Wolves, and we just always missed out for a few years. And then of course when teams are coming in for you and they're putting that at that time, the fee of 7 million was certainly a lot of money, and we went a long way to help Wolves to maybe with the training ground and what have you, to build a new training ground. So it was for me, it was just my ambition was always to play at the highest level. So going to Coventry, look, would you thought maybe that to go to Coventry, people probably were a little bit eyebrows raised a little bit. But when I spoke to Gordon Strachan and I seen, thing I liked about Gordon Strachan was, he said to me, I think you might be too good for us. He goes, obviously you have to prove that, which I knew myself. But he said, I think this could be just a stepping stone for you to go, further and further to a bigger team. And of course that certainly that happened after a year. Would have imagined that would happen that quick? Probably not. But it was a good opportunity for me to play for a good team that I knew were going to play every week, rather than going somewhere, say one of the top teams and you're probably in the squad and you're only playing now and again, where every week I was the first name on the team sheet. So I always knew that I was going to play, so that always gives you confidence straight away. And then you always playing regularly on a regular basis, you always have a chance to to score goals, and I was lucky enough to certainly do that. So I was grateful for Coventry certainly to give me that opportunity, and then to have that year, in the Premier League, I really enjoyed it. We had a good team, people like Gary McAllister and Hadji and Cheapo, who was incredible players. So we had a really good flair to us, and the way we liked to play was that Hadji Cheapo was very skillful. Gary McAllister was a top midfield player who was very easy to play with because he sees things before anybody else. So we had a really good understanding. So it certainly helped me to ease my way, if you like, into the Premier League. And I said I was lucky enough to, on my debut again, to score 2 goals against Derby, and we beat them 2-0.
Yeah, so you had a year at Coventry, then you left to Inter Milan, San Siro, and incredible move. And what was your reaction when you got that phone call that Inter Milan were after you?
Well, there was a lot of talk before that, a few months leading up to this, that there's teams looking at me, and Inter Milan kept getting mentioned. So they were watching me for a good 6 months or so. I didn't think anything. I'm one of those guys that takes things in the stride. I don't really let things get to me. I'm always trying to be the best that I can be, and the best version of myself. So, did I think I was going to go to Italy after a year? Probably not. I thought I was going to stay in the Premier League, obviously, for a long time. But opportunities sometimes will come, and then you don't know yourself. So when Inter did come, it was certainly an opportunity I couldn't turn down. And speaking to Gordon Strachan, and Gordon Strachan didn't want me to go, but he said to me, "You have to go because of the manner of the club and the size of the club, and playing in Serie A." So I knew myself I had to go, but I just probably needed to hear from from him that it was okay. And of course they got a lot of money from me, which was 13 million, and it helped. I said at that time it was a hell of a lot of money. So it certainly helped the club. But going to Italy at a young age, would I wish that I went maybe when I was 25, 26? Probably, because I think I'll be more experienced to it. I think when you're young, it's very easy to kind of leave people out of the team and stuff like that. Myself was there, Pirlo was there. There's a lot of younger players that didn't really probably get the opportunity that we wanted to get. But that's all part of growing up and learning the game and understanding. You see a lot of young players now that don't play for the clubs that they're at, and then they go off and have a wonderful career. So for me, it was an experience, something that I don't regret at all. Delighted I went, because it gave me a different perspective on football and understanding of football and understanding of different cultures, which I think is very important for players to have. If you've got an opportunity to go abroad, I would say go and do it, because you're learning a different language. You're learning how they do things, in terms of, I would say, diet and stuff like that, and understanding that. They were way advanced than England at that time. So I had a good understanding of that when I came back to England. So a lot of things that certainly helped me. I think the player I was in the future, going to Italy. So it was a really good learning curve for me. And as I said, it's always exciting to go and play in different countries and play for one of the biggest teams in the world.
You were unlucky that Lippi was sacked not long after you joined. Do you ever wonder that how your career might have turned out if he had stayed and you'd have got more game time at all?
Really? No, I'm not one of those guys that look back and think, well, what if this thing's happened for a reason? Lippi was brilliant to me. I still stay in touch with his son David. I've seen him a year ago, 2 years ago in Dubai, and we had a good chat and gave me some really good advice about going forward as a manager and a coach. But it is what it is. That's football. When you're in Italy, as you know, they're not very forgiving in terms of managers, and we got knocked out of the Champions League by a Swedish team, I think it was, and after that, then I think the writing was on the wall. And that was only one game, the first game of the season we lost away to. I can't remember who it was, but we lost, and then they sacked him, which was obviously unfortunate for me because of he was the one that brought me to the club, and he had showed a lot of faith in me. But that's football, and that's the way it goes.
So obviously you came back to England and then to Leeds, initially on loan, then permanently. And at that time, Leeds were.
I was already signed for Leeds. It was just it was a loan, if you like, because of
loan. Yeah.
It was already signed and sealed. Yeah, but they had to call it a loan for some reason.
But that Leeds team itself at the time was obviously a real powerhouse with some fantastic talent like Viduka, Alan Smith, Rio Ferdinand. Kind of turning up and training with those people. You're still young at this age. How much do you learn from players like that at such a young age, kind of every day training with them?
Well, they were the same age as me, weren't they? So I wouldn't say I learned that much. I mean, Viduka was a couple of years older. Alan Smith was younger than me. Harry Kane was similar age to me. Michael Bridges was. So we're all the same age. That was kind of what attracted me to it. And of course, there was a lot of Irish lads there as well. Gary Kelly, Ian Hart, Steve McPhail, Alan Mabry. So I could have signed for Chelsea. But I just felt more comfortable there after speaking to the lads, and it was a team that was certainly trying to do things and on the up. And as you said, the squad that we had, was incredible. It was just a shame that we didn't have the opportunity to stay for another few years, because I believe that we would have certainly went on to win some things. But the financial situation at the club meant that myself and Rio were the first ones to go to get finances into the club. So, but in terms of actually the couple of years I had there, was very, very enjoyable. Probably one of the most enjoyable places in terms of team spirit that I had. As I said, we were all around the same age and starting off, if you like, on our journey to become the best that we can be. And then, but the atmosphere around the training ground and away from the training ground was, I have to say, was incredible. One of the, probably, as I said, one of the most enjoyable probably times I've had in terms of as a togetherness with a team. As I said, it was just such a shame that we just didn't have the opportunity to stay for a few more years.
Obviously, after Leeds, you joined Spurs, became a real fan favourite there over 8-9 years. And as a Spurs fan, I can attest for that as well. But when you went to London, had you decided at that point that you wanted to really just settle at a club at that point and done a lot of moves at such a young age?
No, because people say that the moves and stuff. Because if you look at the moves, the Wolves, when I had to move because I was young and I was in the Championship and I wanted to play in the Premier League, the Coventry one was, if you like, a stepping stone, and that was told also by the manager and the chairman. So and then the Inter Milan one, wherever it may be, Leeds when I wanted to stay there for I would have stayed at Leeds for a long, long time. But on the circumstances and the finances, as we've seen over the few years. So, people say about, did you want to settle? I wanted to settle at every club that I was at. It wasn't just a case of me, I'm just leaving because, I just want to leave. It was never that. It was I always wanted to, settle everywhere. I wanted to do it the best as I can. I said Leeds, I would have stayed for a long, long time, but things changed at the football club. Tottenham, of course, I felt, straight away at home. We had a manager, Glenn Hoddle, who likes to play a certain way of football, which certainly suited me. And we were a team that was always hovering around, top 10 at the time. We had some really good players there in Teddy Sheringham, Les Ferdinand, Everson at the time. So it was good certainly to play with them kind of players and learn from them. Certainly Teddy, I think we were fairly similar players in how we played the game and how we understood the game. So I certainly learned a lot from Teddy and certainly playing that number 10 role. So it's certainly a club that's obviously, close to me even now. I was there for a long, long time, but it felt right. But it felt right at Leeds also. But the Tottenham just felt, especially the stadium and stuff. I loved the White Hart Lane. It was a stadium that I always felt comfortable playing in, even when I played there before, when I played against them for Coventry. And it was just the right fit, certainly at that time, I think, for them and for me. And as I said, I ended up staying there for a long time.
You mentioned people like Teddy Sheringham, Les Ferdinand. You also had teammates like Defoe, Mido, Freddie Canuto. You're all battling at the time for kind of two starting spots. Take us through the mentality of a striker who has to battle for his place in the starting 11 every week, and the kind of the mental resilience you have to build up for that.
Well, it keeps you on your toes, you know that you can't drop your guard because you know that you've got top players behind you that are waiting for the opportunity, and that's how football is. It's unfortunate you're almost waiting for someone to fail, which is terrible because you to get the opportunity. So of course you want your team to do well, but you're waiting also for your opportunity if someone fails. So I always have to be 100% every day in training, 100% when I'm playing the games, because if you have a couple of bad games, you've got players that will come in quite capable of doing as good as a job as you. So I was very lucky to play with really top players at Tottenham. But of course, the one that would probably stand out for everybody would be myself and Berbatov, playing together and the understanding that we had with each other. And I got Berba. And he wrote that in his book that I was the one that got him. I knew was how he liked to be treated in terms of, like, sometimes he likes to be left alone. Sometimes you can have a laugh for him, and he wasn't being rude or arrogant, nothing like that. It was just the way he was. He was that kind of character. But I got him straight away. But understanding on the pitch was incredible. I always knew where he was, and vice versa. We had this understanding where, if I went long, he would go short, and it was very difficult for defenders to play against it because they didn't really know where we were going to show up. So we had a really from the very start. And as I said, I was very, very lucky, to play him for a couple of years, and I think he said that as well. So which is nice. So top player, really top guy, and we're good friends now till this day.
I was about to say, you were both on fire for those 2 seasons, scored a lot of goals, and I remember the League Cup final when you were on the pitch at the end. I think you were almost in tears. You were fighting past the whole team to try and find them on the pitch, weren't you? As you say, you must have been good mates as well then, to have that emotion about it.
Yeah. We as I said, because best partnerships work is when there's no selfishness between you. You don't care whether you score or he scores. And if you watch for that 2 years, if I had an opportunity, maybe have to score where I know I could score, but Berber was standing there beside me for a tap-in, I would play him and he would score, and vice versa. It was the same for him. So that's why it worked. That's why partnerships work when the two of you are in it together. And as I said, if he scores a hat-trick, you don't care. You're delighted for him. And sitting that Carling Cup final, as I said, I just think the emotions of winning, certainly against Chelsea, because Chelsea at the time they were the team, if you like, to beat because of the amount of money that they spent. Abramovich was in, and Chelsea were a team that had top players. So to kind of beat them, we were the underdogs, and it was certainly a great achievement for for the club. And I was obviously just delighted. I said, run the Berber. I think we had that respect for each other, and we knew that if me and him were on a like in most games, that we'd have the chance to beat anybody.
Staying on the theme of top strikers, did you see much of Harry Kane in the youth setup, and did you see him becoming the player he is now?
Well, Harry was there. Harry used to clean my boots. He was a lovely lad, very quiet. And the only thing I liked about Harry was that when we do shooting sessions after training, he'd be there, he'd be watching, and sometimes he would get involved. And I would do it constantly after training, maybe for 10 minutes, when sometimes the manager would allow you. Sometimes he'd tell you to get in, but if he didn't, I'd always, every day after training myself, even when I was 35, 36, I was doing the same thing. Just 10 minutes, just getting a feel for the net, both feet. And Harry was the same. Harry used to do it. So did I see to the heights he was going to go now? I would say no, because how could you think that at 15 years, 16 years of age? But what I did like about him was that his work rate and his endeavour to try and to practice every day, where you don't see it. I've played with loads of players, loads of strikers. Sometimes that I'd be doing shots at my age, at 24, 25 years of age, and you'll have a 22-year-old or whatever, 25-year-old sitting there watching you, where they should be actually getting involved and getting the good habits of hitting the back of the net and just getting a feel for the both feet, left foot, right foot, as I said, or heading or wherever it may be. But Harry was the one that you would see that, and always practicing, always wanted to practice, always be watching himself and Berber and Defoe and people like that, doing shooting. So you certainly knew that he wanted to become a football player. But I'm just delighted, the players that he's become, because he was a very, very, lovely lad, very, very humble, very quiet. And so to see where he is now, I'm delighted. And
so, you're currently 15th on the all-time Premier League goal-scoring chart, 126 goals. And what made you such a devastating goal scorer? What was your drive to succeed?
I think it's your drive to be the best that you can be. See, people don't see people see, going on the pitch and then you score goals and you think, oh, well, that must be just easy for him. But you have to work hard at that, as I said before, talking about practice and stuff like that. I'd go on holidays with my friends, and then I'd wake up in the morning and I'd go for a run before we went out and had a good time or what have you. So people don't see that other side of players that really put in that hard work. So it's something natural, yeah, probably, but I worked very, very hard at, to become that. if you don't put the hard work and that enthusiasm into what you want to do and what you love doing, well, I'm afraid you won't go far. So when I'm talking about Harry Kane and people like that, I want to score. Harry practices all the time. I practice all the time. Jermaine Defoe practices all the time. Dimitar Berbatov would practice all the time. So it just doesn't come to you. You have to really, really work at it. And it's like anything in life. Things are not handed to you on a plate. So I come from a working class background. I knew I always was a hard worker. I knew I certainly had ability, but if you don't put that extra bit of energy into that really hard work away from what other people see, well, I'm afraid you won't go far. So I was that kind of player that always wanted to be better. If I thought my left foot wasn't as good as my right foot, I would practice, most days. And then, as you see in probably a lot of my goals, I could score with both feet. So that just didn't come just because I've got a good left foot. That became because of hard work. So I think that's the important thing of becoming a striker and scoring all them goals. It doesn't just come just because natural ability. Maybe someone like Lionel Messi, but I know from Messi, people tell me that he's the same. He's constantly practicing, doing shooting sessions after training, learning, doing his quick feet and stuff like that. So even the best players in the world do it. So you don't get anything for free in this life, I'm afraid.
And you mentioned earlier that you're a Liverpool fan. You had a 6-month spell there between your two spells at Spurs. How do you view your time at Liverpool?
Of course, like any club, I've signed there for a reason. I signed there to win things. Unfortunately, it didn't work out the way I wanted it. I had a manager who had probably a different idea than what I was told. But that's fine. Do I have any regrets of it? No, I certainly don't, because I think you do things in life for a reason. And I was excited certainly to sign for Liverpool, because I had a good feeling that the reason why I left, because at the time Tottenham were Berber left, Berber was leaving. I left. I can't remember about which. I knew he was leaving to go to Man United, and then the team was almost, if you like, a selling club at the time. They sold Carrick as well a few years before that. So Liverpool were the team that was kind of at the top. Of course, I supported them as a kid, so it was great to obviously play for them. But I always go back to, I tell people all the time, especially young players now that call me and for advice and stuff like that. For me, growing up, I always woke up on a Monday morning, can't wait to go training, and can't wait to play on a Saturday. I don't wake up on a Monday morning looking forward to sitting on the bench on a Saturday. So I've always been like that. Football wasn't about money for me. It wasn't about, I want to become a superstar. I want to have this house. I want to have a car and just that. For me, it was just about playing football. And it didn't matter where I am. I go out on the road now, and I go out 5-a-side with my mates even now. I do it for free. So when you don't play, it's very, very difficult to take when you're used to playing on a regular basis. And you've had a couple of great seasons yourself and Berbatov. So not to be playing on a regular basis was difficult to take, of course. How did I take it? I was still the same person as I was going into training, still confident, still giving it everything, but sometimes it's out of your hands, and a manager might have a different idea than what you had, Raf. Benitez liked to play midfield players, and if you like, Stevie played in the 10, and Alonso and Mascherano, Torres, high up. So when I first went, it was me and Torres playing up front, but it didn't work out like that. So that's how it goes in football. I don't regret it at all. Definitely not. I'm glad I did. It's a massive club, great fans. Were very, very good to me. But that happens in football. All I ever wanted to do, and all I ever wanted to do, even after Liverpool, was just to play football. As I said, whether that's whatever its team it's for, it doesn't matter to me. I'm not one of these players that like to sit on the bench and pick up the money.
She came back to Spurs in a couple of loans, Celtic, West Ham. Then you went to MLS and LA Galaxy, which was a very successful time for you. Did you have an ambition to go and play in America, or was it an opportunity that presented itself and you thought, I've got to have some of that?
It was an opportunity to present itself. Bex came to training at Tottenham for a couple of months when off season. He lived in London, so he came for a few months, and we just got to know each other. We were very friendly at the training ground. Spoke a lot. Spoke about the MLS quite a bit, and just asked me would I be ever interested of going to the MLS, and I said, yeah, I would. Didn't really think about it too much, but obviously we've seen the hype of David going there, of course, on Sky and what have you. Of course, I was following his career. Until he said it to me, I wasn't thinking too much of it. I always like to challenge myself anyway. So did I want to stay in the Premier League for another few years where I could have scored more than 126 goals? I could have easily stayed for a couple more years and made the numbers up, or do I want to go somewhere and challenge myself? And I thought it was a good challenge. And I mean, it's not a bad place to go, is it, to live in LA? So when David asked me, would I be interested? I said, probably. And then before I know, I got a call, when David left, went back to LA, I got a call from him and Tim Lewicki at the time, who was the CEO. And just asked me would I be interested. And then before you know it, 2 days later, I was on a plane, headed over to LA, and I signed. So it happened fairly quickly in that little spell. But I said there was obviously a bit of talk before that, maybe a month, 6 weeks before that, but nothing concrete. Just it was more of just a general conversation. But my time there, absolutely loved it. Great place to live, great place to bring your family up. My second son was born there, Hudson, and we did special things there. We had a great team. Myself, David, Landon, Donovan, us three would probably get the plaudits, but we had a really good team around us, and very lucky to win 3 championships in 5 years. So really good times.
When you say you won 3 championships, scored over 100 goals for the Galaxy, and as you said at the top, you got to visit the White House and meet President Obama. Obviously, he name checked you in that kind of famous YouTube clip now. But how was that experience? That must have been pretty surreal.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was. It was very good. I mean, a lad from Dublin, and having the opportunity to go to the White House was certainly incredible. I think I've been there 3 times. I think when you win the championship, you go there 3 times. I think I've been there 3 times, which is incredible, and just have the opportunity. That's a great thing about America, is that to have the opportunity, when you win a championship and going to see the president of the country, who's basically probably the world leader, if you like, and he was very, very, very humble and very nice guy. And I mean, it's like Fort Knox to get in there. It took some few hours to get in there. You have to check everything before you go in, and you have to stand in a room around. Everyone stands in a room waiting for him to come in, and then I was one of the DP players, if you like, and then the captain. You'd go into a separate room, and you'd meet him before you'd meet the other lads. So it was very, very surreal, but great opportunity, of course, to have these memories. To going to the White House and seeing the president. I brought the LA Galaxy over here to Ireland, so we were doing a pre-season. So we went to see the president, obviously Obama, and as you said, he name checked me and said we were cousins and what have you. So when the Galaxy came over here for pre-season, so I organised for all them to see our president, and it was a little bit different to going to see our president, because he was waiting at the door for you, pulled up at the front door, had the run of his house, his garden. The lads were out with his dogs, taking selfies with him. We had tea, wine, biscuits, sandwiches, everything there. So I think the lads certainly appreciated that. But it was definitely a different experience for them, I think, to come and to see Air President. But Air President's brilliant, Michael D. Higgins, who was a lovely, lovely man. And he welcomed the Galaxy with open arms, and I was just delighted to do that for them, to see, especially after me seeing their president. But so it was different. It was different scale altogether.
Superb. Yeah, Robbie. UCFB students, they're kind of given the opportunity to go to New York and Atlanta once a year to kind of find out more about the sports industry in the US. What insight can you give them about football or soccer, the MLS in general in the US, and where that league is maybe heading on the world stage, do you think?
Well, I can only give you, I'll give you from when I went there first, for example. I would go, when I first went there, the stadiums were, I would say, the Galaxy Stadium was always full, but most of the other stadiums were probably half full, I would say, when I first went there. The time I left, all the stadiums were full. Football, soccer, if you like, just took off massively there, and it's grown, continued to grow. And you see the new teams now coming up. Obviously, David's team, Miami. Unfortunately, there's no fans at the moment, but you'll see when it comes back, all the stadiums will be packed. Atlanta, the same. You see that their stadium is probably one of the best around. They get a full house every game. So certainly the MLS is definitely a place to be. If you look at, I would say, a lot of players that call me now will want to go play in the MLS. So that's how much has grown. I'm not talking about just players who's just average players. I mean, top players that would love to have the opportunity to go and play in the MLS. So I think that says it all, really. That's how much the league has grown, and I'm proud. I'm proud to be part of that, because obviously, David was the one that really kicked it off, and he was the face, if you like, of the very start of putting the MLS on the map. And then I was just behind him myself. So I'm proud to be kind of part of that, of players wanting to come and play in that league. Because after me, then it was Kaká and Pirlo and Lampard and Gerrard and the Santos, the Henry, the list goes on. So to be part of that was great. And I said it's a league that's definitely continued to do that.
I touched on the start of your international career earlier, but I just wanted to ring through some of the achievements before going on about it again. Was your record goal scorer, 68 goals for Ireland, record appearances, 146 caps, played in 1 World Cup, played in 2 European Championships, captain, and you're also in the top 20 international goal scorers of all time, with some pretty established names there. Where does your international career rank in your all-time achievements?
Yeah, it's definitely up there. I've said it many times before. The green jersey always fit me best. As I said, I'm a proud Irishman. I'm very proud to play for my country and to play for that long. Even when I was in LA, flying back for friendly games and flying back for all those games, it was never ever an issue for me. I said it was an honour and a privilege to put that green jersey on, and to captain your country for 10 years was a real honour. So I was very, very lucky, and I said to be the most captain, most goal scorer. For me, it was growing up was the goal scorer was more important to me. That I was so desperate to. Certainly when I jumped onto the scene, was to beat that record of 21 goals, and I was lucky enough to do that fairly early, and then then to carry on, to continue to play, and then to actually become the record cap. It's certainly something I can do I think about too much? No, but when you've got kids and stuff like that, and the friends and they're chatting to them, they bring up quite a bit. So Yeah, it was great times. Very fortunate to play in World Cups, World Cup, and 2 European Championships, and be a part of this, this national team for since I was 18 years of age, and until I was 36. So I was very, very lucky, and as I said, the green jersey certainly was the one that fitted best on me.
And obviously, you've had time as well as assistant for the Republic of Ireland, then with Johnny Woodgate and Middlesbrough as well. Where does management and coaching sit on the radar for you now going forward?
I've been very lucky. I've been very fortunate because I've been doing my badges for a number of years now. I've finished all of them. I finished my pro license there just a few months ago. So what I've done in the last couple of years really would probably take someone, maybe 5 or even 5 to 8 years. I was assistant manager with Mick McCarthy, who's an experienced manager, who's been in the game for a long, long time. So to be by his side and to be learning off him, and to be with the national team, to get that experience, incredible. And then to be in the championship, as for a year, it's it's relentless. It's full on, it's non-stop. So to get the 2 experience at the same time in the space of a couple of years certainly is going to stand me in good stead going forward. As a manager, of course, I've made no secret that I'd want to be a manager one day, but it has to be the right opportunities. Opportunities have come up, but they haven't been right for me. So I'm not going to jump into something that doesn't feel right for me. So I'm certainly looking to the future. As I said, keep learning, continue to read, keep asking questions, keep speaking to managers, coaches that I've played under, managers that I haven't. I used to go down to Tottenham quite a bit to watch Pochettino, and then when all this COVID craziness is please God be finished soon, that opportunity to go back to Tottenham and watch Jose and for a little bit. So I'm always learning. I think you never stop learning. Of course, I'm new at this, but the experience I've had in the last couple of years, as I said, has been valuable to me, and I think it certainly will help me going forward.
Do you know the kind of manager you want to be or are, or who you're maybe going to base yourself on, or how you want to lead yourself?
It's very difficult to base yourself on anybody, but you have to. I'm definitely be a positive manager. Definitely a manager on the front foot. Likes to play football, of course. I've always played in teams that like to play. But it depends where you are. If you're the manager of Liverpool and Man City and teams like that, you've got players who can play out and can play from the back, and can. But you could take a job that maybe the players are not suitable for that. So you have to adapt to certain situations. So I know what I want to be, but I'm also very aware that the opportunities that will come up, that it might be the opportunity that you'd want from the start. So you have to learn. You have to adapt to certain situations. So I'm very, very comfortable with that. No problem. But as I said, I'm definitely be a positive manager. I'll try and help players. I've been lucky in the last couple of years to help a lot of young players. I said I get calls even now and if you like, a mentor to a lot of them. So I want to develop players, certainly young players, because I was there myself, thrown into the deep end, if you like, at 17 years of age. And people helped me along the way. So to give that back and give my experiences and my knowledge of the game for these last 20 odd years will certainly only help younger players going forward, and of course and experienced players also, because I've been captain for a long time, so I know what it's like to be in the dressing room, and I'm just new out of the game, so I understand what players want, and I understand the needs, and so I'm excited for the future. Certainly, I'm looking forward to a challenge that may arise soon. and we'll see what happens.
And finally, Robbie, my last question for you today, for our students and potential future students watching this, what one bit of advice can you give them for them to go on and achieve and have a successful career in the football and sports industry?
I would say, well, it might be an old cliche, but whatever you do, always give 100%. Throw yourself into it. Don't be going into something half-hearted and think that I'll give this 70% because people see through you. If you're ever doing that, whether it's sport or whether it's in a normal job or it's your college, give everything you have and take the opportunity. Sometimes opportunities arise that you just don't know. So will you be ready for that? Make sure you're always ready for it. Make sure you're not second guessing yourself and chasing something. Try and be prepared as much as you can. Of course, you'll never be 100% prepared because you never know what's around the corner. But as long as you're willing to try yourself into something and give everything you have, I think we'll go a long way. Hard work and dedication is very, very key to being successful.
Robbie Keane, thank you very much for your time today.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me.